Dude, what are you doing, man? Again, gotta flip it. Woo! Alright guys, 1997 BMW M3 Sedan with the 5-speed manual transmission. Now, this actually started life as an auto, and the owner bought it for $7,000. He then found a 5-speed manual, bought that for a $1.5K, and then did $1K in labor to get that installed. So it's essentially a $10,000 M3 with a manual sedan. But if you were to find an actual OEM M3 sedan with the manual, a clean example would run you anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. So kudos to the owner Marco for being resourceful on this. We're powered by a 3.2 liter inline six, that's the S52, making 240 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque. We're weighing in just shy of 3,200 pounds, and we have strut suspension in the front, multi-link in the rear, just like with other M3s. In terms of mods, the owner has done a lightweight flywheel, Sachs Stage 2 clutch, UUC short shifter, and because it's manual swapped, he actually retained the shorter 3.38 LSD, the final drive ratio, from the automatic, right? So we didn't swap out the actual LSD, retains that shorter 3.38 final drive versus the manual, which would have a 3.23. So it's about 5% shorter. He's also added a Dinan carbon intake, BC coilovers, and we've got these budget Kenda 235 section width tires, square. The interior obviously has seen better days. Just hope I don't catch any diseases sitting on this. Oh. Now here's a really crazy thing. You notice this in the M2. The M2 is when I first was made aware of this like misalignment between the pedals, the seat, the steering wheel. But look here. I'm sitting in the center of the seat. Steering wheel is right where I want it to be. Look at the brake pedal. It is left of the steering wheel. So I need to drive like this. That is not ideal. Definitely not an ideal situation. So I guess the misalignment has been quite common for a while. There we go. She comes to life. I like the small Momo steering wheel, smaller than OEM, and also very firm material. That's probably going to help us with our steering feedback a little bit. We've got the short shifter here. Very modern shift knob with a more retro interior. Interior has obviously seen better days, and the seating position, there's no telescoping here, and the pedals, again, because of the weird positioning, not ideal. I'm really arms straight here just so I can even attempt to heel toe. Not ideal, but actually I like the E36 interior quite a bit. This one is rougher, but just the design, the simplicity, the gauge cluster. Maybe because of my age, I was but a wee lad when these came out. I always thought that the E36, this generation, they're just so cool, man. And if you feel like it's too dark in here, I agree, because these windows are so darkly tinted, I can barely even see the gauge cluster. Turning on the lights, it's now illuminated in the back, but still pretty dim. Got a red line at $7,000. Now let's give her a pull. Such a smooth engine, this S52. BMW inline sixes, especially from this era, and even into the 2000s, always so smooth and effortless with their power delivery. Good wide range torque band on this engine too. Huh. That was an attempted heel toe, but I guess the throttle response is a bit sluggish here. Gotta blip it pretty aggressively. We also don't have any traction or ABS. So on the wetter patches, we're gonna dial it back a bit. Short throw shifter. It feels mostly good. You have this nice mechanical feeling. It's not overly rubbery like a lot of BMW shifters are. But it's sometimes a bit finicky, especially going second to third. And with the modifications to the clutch and flywheel, you want to be very ginger because if you let go too quickly, it's quite abrupt. It's not very forgiving. So you want to be very smooth and get that bite point precise to have smooth shifts. Small learning curve there, but you'll adjust to it. I thought the red line was 700, but it's actually closer to 65. You can rev it out to around 66 or 67 before the fuel cutoff. Good amount of body roll, softer suspension setup. This is obviously optimized for a street. The owner has not tracked this, although he might in the future. Dude, what are you doing, man? What the fuck was that? Jesus fuck, man. What the fuck was that? Don't do that, kids. That's how people die out here. That's the sketchiness that you gotta be mindful of when you're driving in the canyons. Not everyone uses common sense. Again, gotta flip it. Woo! Even taking it easy on the wet sections, these tires are complete shit, so you gotta be careful. It's a very progressive car though. Very easy to control if the tail does slide out on you. I wish I could honk though. That was a safety concern back there. A little decreasing radius right there, and you know, it's not the sharpest, most dynamically capable vehicle. You have a longer wheelbase, it's pretty stable. If the tail gets out, easy to correct and catch. You can feel it's not the most rigid chassis either. Older technology, this thing is more than 3 decades old, or right around there rather. Because the car is a bit over 3,000 pounds and it's lower on power, it's a car that you can push harder. In fact, it encourages you to do so with that linear, smooth engine. It's so effortless, you don't feel bad. You don't. It doesn't pull at your mechanical sympathy strings when you start revving it out. And in fact, it encourages you to push it harder. Yeah, really soft suspension setup also contributes to the ability to make it easier to drive in a certain way. Because if it's too soft, you get too much body roll. It's not responsive enough. But here, it's congruent with the character of the vehicle, such that it takes a second to load up, to set. Nothing is super sharp in this car. The front end takes a minute, takes a moment to set and to hook up. And I appreciate that about vehicles, when the various components are congruent. The hydraulic steering here is giving us a bit more feedback than in the stock examples. The stock example has a larger wheel, different material as well. Doesn't give you quite as much, but here getting a bit more feedback through the wheel. Not a ton of load up mid-corner though. Very subtle. In terms of inputs, it's decently congruent. So you have this slightly sportier steering because it's heavier and it has more feedback than a regular E36. A slightly sportier gear shift because of the short shift kit. The transmission again is a little bit sportier and less forgiving, right? You have to be more precise with it. So it's very much an E36 that has been dialed up. Oh, yeah, dude, that's the Evo 6 we reviewed yesterday. Owned by PJ, what a gentleman. Gentleman and a scholar. But this E36 takes something from the 90s that, you know, back then that was sports sedan. That was considered much sharper than by today's standards, right? By today's standards, it feels like the owner has struck a good balance point here, where you can enjoy it on the street. It's softer, it's more comfortable, but it has that sporty flavor to the inputs. It has that engine that also encourages you. And that's what I enjoy most about cars like these, is the way that they encourage you to drive them harder, the way they make you feel behind the wheel, the vibes they give off, right? It's not about being the fastest or the sharpest. Sometimes it's about, you know, nostalgia and having a great driving experience for a very reasonable price. I'd say at 10K for the bones of this car, the base, you know, the car plus the manual transmission, I think that is excellent value. And then you can add whatever other mods you want, the flywheel, suspension, etc., to get it to drive the way you want. My friends, let me know what you think of this E36 M3 with a comment down below. Big thanks to the owner Marco for letting me review his vehicle. If you want your car reviewed, visit us on jabalandcars.com. Fill out that form on the homepage. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in that next one.